Well, for more than a month now, France has been racked by massive riots, the biggest in 50 years. The riots began in response to a planned gasoline tax. Why was the French government raising gasoline taxes? Obviously, climate agenda. Well, in Washington, people only care about Russia, so they've barely noticed this. They think a carbon tax is still a great idea. Such a great idea that outgoing Arizona Senator Jeff Flake has teamed up with Delaware Democrat Chris Coons to introduce a new bill that would impose a nationwide carbon tax. Ethan Bearman is a California radio host, and he joins us tonight. Ethan, thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks, Tucker.
So I think it's pretty clear from what's happening in France that maybe the public globally isn't on board with this because most people care about gas prices because, you know, they don't have their own planes or drivers. So why would you, in the name of fighting climate change, crush the most vulnerable in your society? That doesn't seem fair.
Well, we got two issues that are going on here. First off is in France, Emmanuel Macron, he actually did a massive tax cut on the rich. That's part of what these protests are about. It's not just about the gas tax. It's also the fact that the people feel like he was just giving away these giant tax cuts to the wealthy. That sounds familiar to the United States. Simultaneously, the U.S. proposal is actually fundamentally different from France. What Senators Flake and Coons put forward is a revenue-neutral carbon tax and dividend, meaning whatever tax money comes in gets distributed out to the American taxpayer. Now, it will be a progressive. No, it'll be progressive. So
okay,
the lower end of the
we're
income scale,
so we're going to raise
dividend.
gas taxes and then filter the money through a massive unionized bureaucracy, and somehow it'll drip back down to you. But I thought trickle-down economics didn't work, but I guess we're for it now?
Well, that's not trickle-down economics. Trickle-down
I
economics
think it kind
means
of
tax
is,
cut on the
but it trickles through a public employee union first, right? There's a different kind of trickling, but it's still, you're still getting wet.
Yeah, but the difference here is, so we're using a market force to disincentivize pollution. Now, one of my big issues with the carbon tax is you can argue all you want about whether or not climate change is man-made or not. But we do know that mercury pollution is a potent neurotoxin. We do know that sulfur pollution has significant health effects. We do know that ground-based ozone, because of our burning of fossil fuels, causes people to die because they can't breathe. I'm a big fan of reducing pollution. If we can use market solutions to incentivize being more efficient and disincentivize polluting,
well,
I think that's reasonable.
Then look, I mean, some of this I can't weigh in on one way or another because I'm not a scientist, but I do understand who's getting the short end of the stick. Wouldn't it be a display of good faith if the people behind this legislation said the first thing we're going to do is ban all private air travel in this country? We're going to put you in prison if you get on a private plane, because climate change is that serious. It's an existential threat to the planet, to the human race itself. So like, you can't fly in a private plane. And then we'll talk about taxing everybody else, like people who make 40 grand. Why not start that way?
So we actually agree on the private plane issue. I hate when people will tell me how to live my life and then they do the exact opposite. I can't stand hypocrisy.
Do you see that happening now? These politicians who fly constantly private and these actors who fly private and Al Gore who flies private lecturing you about your Suburban. That is a problem for you then?
I'm offended by that. I wrote about it in my book, actually.
Good for you.
I specifically pointed out.
Why don't we just ban it? No, but seriously, if it's that serious a problem, let's just ban it. I mean, I don't want to be an authoritarian. I was always kind of libertarian. But climate change is too important, okay? So if you show up at the FBO, at the private airport, we're just going to put you in prison.
So no, I'm actually a little bit on your side here. I don't like banning things. No, because here's what happens with the carbon tax. Suddenly, your private jet, instead of it being $3,000 an hour because of the tax on your burning of the fossil fuel, will suddenly cost you $5,000 an hour, and maybe some of the B-list
I guess I just take climate change a little more seriously than you do. You must be a denier. I don't want to see someone spoil the earth like that. So, you know, every private plane banned.
Well, I don't think we have to ban them, but we make it expensive. We make it expensive, and then you'll think twice about doing it.
Ethan Bearman, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you.